Welcome everyone and welcome this amazing lady, Kelly Lynn Adams. Kelly, thank you so much for joining our interview today. I'm super excited. As with all my guests, takes time to set up a meeting and time because everyone is always busy, but once this is happening is happen magic, and I'm learning. I hope person who is interview and who is my guest is learning, and everyone else learning together. So it's always about personal development, empowerment, and some form of transformation that all those interviews have to come and bring.
Daria, I'm so excited to be here, and it's an honor. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much. Tell me, I don't have that question on the list, but tell me, how was your San Lucia trip? What
Oh,
was that about?
it was amazing. It was amazing. Yeah, I went to St. Lucia at a conference, the Ignite Her conference, and it was beautiful. I've never been to St. Lucia. It was a great opportunity, and the women that were there were just amazing. I mean, they're going to be creating some amazing things for the island and then for their businesses and outside the island. So it was just really an honor and privilege to be there and get to speak and network and be with everyone. So yeah.
Beautiful. I wanted to invite you and speak with you because I am, since a while, I'm very much into this feminine entrepreneurship journey, women in business, right? And in that good meaning, right? Like I said, always, there is nothing about masculine being bad, feminine being bad. We have to join together and break down stereotypes. It's just a few moments ago, I was reading in Forbes about this, that we have to be like, women CEO, mother in business, right? It's just the tag, right? But it's at the end of the day, it's a business and it's a enterprise, and everyone comes into that to create something special. And I am very excited that I hope you share with us your remarkable story, because that story help you have transformed the story into something empowering, but you have transformed everything in your life, right? It's not just one thing. Can you please tell our audience a little bit about you? How did you enter into feminine empowerment, leadership, and everything that we can benefit from you today? Share with us. Come on, bring it on.
Thank you so much. And I love this topic too, around the masculine, feminine energy or leadership styles. I was actually at a corporation yesterday speaking exactly about this because they were struggling with, how do we deal when, executives are really leading in their masculine energy and, everything that goes along with it. And no energy is good or bad. However you identify as a person, he, she, it, them, they. Everyone has both of these energies or leadership styles within them. So you and I both have masculine and feminine energy leadership styles. So a little bit about my story. It won't be too long, but I always knew I wanted to do something bigger with my life, like starting at 7 years old, sold lemonade. And I'm like, I want to be something. And I always wanted to be like an entrepreneur, but never really knew what that was. And I always wanted to be in the New York area for as long as I remember. So I went to school, went to college, studied finance, fashion, all the things, and landed on Wall Street. And after Wall Street, got into the fashion industry. And, I didn't really grow up with the best background, didn't come from money, definitely had a lot of different trials and tribulations and traumas in my life, and childhood traumas and things that occurred in my life. And I'm really grateful for every single thing that has occurred. In the past 2 years, I've been working on myself. So fast forward, I climbed the corporate ladder. I was working for amazing companies with amazing leaders, and I've learned so much about myself. And in that whole time, I definitely had transformed, from, landing in the hospital from burnout, because I was really, all I was doing was in my masculine energy, go, 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 type A, overachiever. And I got something out of that. I really got, I was seeking love in the accomplishments, in the accolades. I was, the harder I work, the more worthy and recognition and love that I would get, and the more money I would make, and I would feel better. And so that was really not a truth for me. I had this life that looked great on paper. You know, I had the car, I had the man, I had the career, every girl's dream in the fashion industry. And then part of me was dying, you know, inside. And I was really my own detriment. No one did anything to me. You know, I was allowing external circumstances, my own internal mindset to really take over. And so, you know, I started doing the work. I found coaching in 2009. I built my coaching and consulting and speaking business from that point, you know, while I was still in corporate, left corporate, you know, on my own. And really, like, I have found just all of the inner work, and I'm still doing it, still work in progress, you know, all the work that I have been doing has led me up to this point, you know, of my journey. I think it's so important that when we're working with other people, or when we want to manifest our dreams, or when we want something to shift in our life, that we get to shift first. Because it's, to me, it's an inside out game, not an outside in game. And I was playing the outside in game, and I really had to go through like an ego death, and really like on my knees, come to Jesus moment, crying in my bathroom floor, being like, what is this? You know, what am I doing? What's happening? What's occurring? So there's so many different trials and tribulations I can go down, but the struggle was real. And you know, there's always a lot going on in the world. There's always a lot going on internally. And you know, we get to shift, we get to take responsibility, we get to look at our part. So that's a little bit about me. We can go more into the story, but yeah.
Yes, beautiful. Thank you so much. I like that you stressing out that this is there are two things. One, that we also have to work on ourselves, and that is what sometimes I find. I feel that people who comes to see us, or clients, male or female, sometimes they think that we do not work on ourselves. It's just we just there, we just transformed, because we share in this, obviously, but there is support that has to stay for us, right? And it's not about us, but about them. But this is a work in progress. And you, like you said, we trying everything that we supporting people with we facilitating the journey with our own transformation. So we know that actually is working. So we're giving people method. That's why I like also coaching, because coaching, like I'm saying, I don't need to be a business coach, life coach, health coach. I'm just coach. And my power is to facilitate your transformation and change. I don't give you the advice. And I think that's sometimes what people don't like, or women don't like. Let's talk about women, right? Because there is no black and white. You have to go. I empower you to change. So that's fantastic. Thank you so much, Kelly. There is I remember, because first time I heard you, we were talking at the summit, business of your body, or body of your business, and you were talking about one situation in your life, particular, that because you were using food, right, as a driver to suppress your emotional triggers, right? And I want to touch this little bit, because I know that our audience are women who struggle with food, but for some reason, food is used by many women in a corporate who are high leaders, CEOs, high performance. And that is my question. They are so intelligent, they're so powerful, but they're using calories and scale and what they see in a mirror to redefine who are they, right?
Yeah.
Please talk about that, because you managed to say, you know, that's it.
Yeah.
It's enough is enough. But how did you do that? Tell us about this moment.
It was a journey. So there's a lot, right? So I grew up, and you know, a lot of this comes from society, from the images, from social media, from what we're sold to, all of that, and how we're raised sometimes. So everyone's programming is a little different. Everyone's perception is a little bit different. For me, my journey, you know, I had a real interesting relationship with food, with alcohol. You know, I dealt with anxiety, depression, all of that. And so with food, like growing up, I really never loved my body. Like even as a teenager, even in my 20s, like it was always, and you know, I consider myself very smart, very high achiever, very like all the things. And I was always seeking, like, how can my body look like this, right? Or how can I lose weight? Like, I always was like on this losing weight journey. And then I also abused my body with food. And with the burnout, like, I also developed chronic illnesses and diseases, right? Because I wasn't taking care of myself, of the foods I was eating, of not getting enough sleep. And so for me, it was food and alcohol that I was abusing, you know, in my most like productive time, the most busiest in my life when I landed in the hospital. I mean, this is so like, I was eating Starbucks and Dunkin' Donuts and all, like, it's great, but I was eating that for my meals, right? Like, I was eating all different things that were maybe not the best. And that was my staples. And I was drinking and I was doing all the things because I just didn't give it time and attention. And it came down to the self-love, you know, it's like, and sometimes for me as a high performer, overachiever, type A, it's like, there's a certain way that I want to either look, or there's certain, like, living up to society's measures. And it's like, I remember I feel like I've done like every diet on the market, you know, to feel a certain way, look a certain way. I mean, I was dieting in my teens, you know, so the pressure for me, I feel like the pressure is real for women and even men too. And I think society just puts that on us, right? And sometimes we also value, like, there's certain seasons in life, right? And the season of life when I burnt out, my focus was not on eating, right? It was about feeling good. And I know food makes you feel good, but I was more of like feeling good of getting the love and appreciation from other people outside of myself, and whatever that took, right? So if I needed to get fast food, you know, as breakfast, lunch, and dinner in order to achieve my goals over here, that was the easiest and most convenient. So for me, it's been such a journey, like a healing journey of like loving my body, not abusing it. You know, and I say my chronic illness has been like the biggest blessing for me, because for me, what my chronic illnesses like signify, like if I'm working too much or I'm eating something that's not great, you know, my body will warn me, or it'll give me signs that I wasn't listening to, you know, years. You know, it's like, nope, we're here. We're going to signify what is not working, and we're going to let it be known. So that's why I say my chronic illnesses are like the biggest blessing, because it's like, okay, yes, like it's a reminder of how I get to treat myself, and yeah, where I'm kind of out of, and I don't like the word balance, but where I'm out of alignment.
Right. I agree with you. That word balance is very a strange word, because we never in balance, because we kind of, maybe we feel like we are in balance because we are doing more things that we paying attention to, but then we are neglecting things. We're neglecting things and we don't give attention to the other stuff, but then those things coming out, and they like, I feel unhappy in my relationship, but I put 100 hours, 100% of attention in my work, right? I cannot have a, I don't know, happy family relationship or partnership relationship, because again, I put maybe all my attention on my, I don't know, on parties or on myself, because it's again that final balance between how much attention I give to myself and how much attention I give to others. And that is about that self-love. I've learned this from chakra work, right? That is about that center, right? And many women struggle with this, because we generally learn how to nurture others, not nurture ourselves, right? Yes. Tell me how women can think about self-love, because I don't also want that we overuse this word. And that is again like mindfulness, I don't know, meditation, mental health now is overused. And I speak with Melissa from Hume to, oh my goodness, I forgot, sorry Melissa, the name exactly of the company, but we're talking about overuse mental health, because now we don't focus on physical health. And for me, this all comes together. So how can we think about self-love and use it in that, on the brackets, correct way?
Yeah, so I don't think there's any like correct way. And I love what you said about balance. Like, you go through seasons in life, you know, so, and no season is wrong. It's just like, okay, where am I focused on over here? What are my values? So I like to tell people, look at, like, for me, I do it in 90-day increments. It's like, okay, I plan my life in 90-day increments. I mean, I do an overall vision, but it's like, okay, what am I focused on? So the past 2 years, I'll call that a season. And I do it, like I said, in 90-day chunks. Yeah, self-love is like a buzzword, right? Like, everyone's like, oh yeah, love yourself. And it's like, and what does that really mean? You know, like, yes, love yourself, go take a walk. Yes, go love yourself and breathe right. And yes, like, regulate your nervous system, right? There's so many things going on in the world that just by the social media scroll, or just by talking to people that are maybe in victim consciousness or negativity, that is, right, like, that also prevents the self-love. So when we're talking about that, it's like, how can we protect ourselves, regulate our nervous system, meaning like, how does my body feel safe? How can my mind feel safe? I'll take it a little bit deeper, because I've been in the work, the self-development and the mindfulness all that for years. And to me, it's like, oh yes, it is so powerful. It's a buzzword. And how are you using it? Right. So for me, I've been doing transformational work on myself with others for years. So it's like, and I'm still, right, the past 2 years, I've gotten deeper into inner child work, meaning looking at a picture of 2-year-old Kelly, you know, how is 2-year-old Kelly or 5-year-old Kelly, whatever age, and what does she need? How do I get to reparent myself, right, by any needs or desires or wants that I did not get? No fault of anyone's, right? Parents, caretakers are doing the best they can. And I don't want to spiritual bypass that either. We get to be allowed to feel all our feelings if our needs and our wants, or, you know, were not met, neglect, abuse, whatever that was. And sometimes some of us, right, compartmentalize. We disassociate because we don't want to go back. We don't want to remember it. And we get to, right? Because that's what occurred. Whatever occurred in your childhood or in your teenage years, or even COVID, it's real for people, right? It's in your body. It's in your mind. So all the things so what I was doing a lot in my life was I was suppressing. I was using food. I was using alcohol. I was using sex. I was using shopping. I was using all of that stuff to numb myself out, instead of actually feeling my feelings, getting it out, expressing it, and then like working on that inner child work. So the past 2 years, I've been really diving into reparenting myself. And I know it sounds a little like, oh, reparenting. And we get to do that. It's like, what did little Kelly need that she didn't get? And now adult Kelly can give it to her, right? In whatever way that is. So it's a lot of, I mean, forgiveness is self-love work, you know, really being with yourself. And even if, you know, I call it the shame-ish storm, right? Like, even feeling shame around things, right? That's okay. Like, feelings are there to be felt. People are dealing with, I have clients that are dealing with massive depression, anxiety, you know, disorders. And it's like, how are you feeling, right? What do you need? So a lot of people, for me, it's like checking in with what you need. And yes, sometimes it is going outside, meditating, breathing, self-care, mani-pedi. And I think it goes deeper of, okay, what am I eating? You know, what am I thinking? What did little, whoever you are, what did your little inner child need? And giving that little child, like giving what you need to yourself in that moment. And listen, sometimes it is a social media scroll. I've been in such like deep trauma healing. And sometimes I'm like, you know, I need to go on TikTok and just scroll, like just mindlessly scroll. And that's okay too. It's just, you know, being real with yourself, of being like, what do I need in this moment? And so for me, self-love is a big thing. It is very kind of like, you know, overused, and we get to choose like, okay, how am I really going to dive into this? You know, and that's why I was like, all right, I'm going to go with the trauma stuff, because I know I know it's coming up for me. And I would say, like, whoever's watching, you know what that is. You know, if you're overworking, you know, if you're self-betraying yourself, right? If you're you don't have boundaries, or you're people pleasing, or you're dealing with like imposter syndrome, or not, that great confidence, not being able to speak up. Like these are, right? These are just some of the things that what's up, right? In this season what it is. You're like, all right, I know it's that thing, or I'm challenged in this area. So
I like what you said about seasons. I haven't thought that way. I was always one of the things I've done with me. I reflected back to my menstrual cycle, right?
Yeah.
So I started to and to seasons in the on the earth, winter, spring, right? And how it's all coming together. Because I used to be very crazy as well, type A personality, right? This is why I burn out. This is why I burn out as an athlete. I never would be resting, always on the go. Then at work, when I moved to London, obviously I have to achieve, otherwise you're useless, right? Because you're always defining yourself by your achievements as a type A achieving woman, right? And I never would be knowing how to rest. Always, I'm really. That's why I feel I connected with you. And actually, my husband, thanks God, I met him. He's the one. He's very Spanish style. He's from Barcelona, warm country. Todo mañana, I'm Polish, driven, let's go, because winter comes, right? In Spain, there is always time. They have siesta, so I have learned that I cannot continue that way. I observed my mom and I said, she's a great woman, but there are things that are not going to work for me. And I've started to see that I'm copy certain parts of her, which actually were not me, were her. And bless her as well. And I really want to stress how it's important to don't blame people for what's happened to you. It's very tough because you have to, I think, be in peace with yourself, that it's you who allowed things to happen. Obviously, when you are a child, you don't choose, right? But there is a progress that you becoming with that agreement. Okay, that's happened, and let's, as you said, heal your childhood trauma. And I like that you're talking about that. It's really very, very powerful. Kelly, tell me, I've got a few of my questions here. I think that is helping me. Yes, you have your podcast, right? And I like the title of the podcast, Perfectly Imperfect, right? Is a very remarkable combination as well. Why do you think women need to start to, in my opinion, redefining the word perfect and actually like to be imperfect?
Yeah, just freedom. Freedom, right? It's just the feeling of freedom, right? It's and I think there's been so much pressure. There's still pressure with women. I saw this on social media. It was an audio. It's like, women expect to, like, she listed all these things. We expect to age gracefully. We expect to, if we're a mom, be the best mom. If we're, like all these pressures, right, that women face from society, from other people, from themselves. Like, it's like, oh, it's exhausting. So it's like, can we just allow ourselves to just be imperfect? Like, whatever, cellulite, stretch marks, like messy, right? And it's like, can we, especially with high achievers, high performers, like you said, it's like, I have to be the best. I get to be the best. And yes, that serves. And sometimes, yes, that also kind of, it causes suffering too, from a place. So when I say, perfectly imperfect, it's just like, can you just give yourself a little bit more room and space and wiggle room to be messy, to if you need to scream, go scream. If you need to not wear makeup for a week, do it, right? And sometimes it's the whole perfectionism. There's no such thing. I mean, well, let me correct myself. I feel like babies are perfect. I feel like nature is perfect. Like, and when I say perfect, it's like they're just, it's they're just being. They're just free. They're just it just is, you know. So to me, I classify that as perfect. So I think there's good and bad, right? I think it's to me, in my eyes, that's what I consider perfect. But just all the pressures we put on ourselves to look a certain way, to be a certain way, to say a certain thing, because of what? Like, what is the definition of perfect? You know, nature to me is perfect. Someone would be like, nature screwed up, right? Like, right? And some people will be like, babies are. I mean, I don't know who's going to argue with a baby not being perfect, but I mean, you know, I think it's just so. I think when we talk about perfectionism and perfect, like as a person, you already are, you know, and I think as a society, and there's a lot of different people put a lot of pressures on themselves to be this certain way, because your perfect is not going to be my perfect, and vice versa. And we're like going for all these like quote unquote perfect things. So I don't know if that answers. I know it's like a
Yeah, that does make sense, and I can see how perfect child and perfect nature is imperfect at the
right.
same time, but in the conscious parenting and a conscious connection with nature, we accept their imperfection as a perfection,
Yeah.
because this is who they are and nature as it is, and you don't want to correct it, right?
Yeah.
And even they saying when you go to the forest, don't we shouldn't pick the branches that are lying down on the floor, because
Mm.
that is a part of this of everything that is there. This is like a community,
Mm-hmm.
right? And the nature likes this,
Yeah.
and it is just us who, and especially in nature, a woman, that
Mm.
is again comes from generation, that she tries to correct everything to feed this masculine need, and she forgets about her feminine power and potential, which sometimes is like a crazy flow, right?
Yeah.
Is a crazy drama queen, right?
Yes.
Because that is our flow and potential. And it's very interesting. I even didn't realize until recently that flow and peak performance, when we talk about this,
Yes.
is actually happening in a feminine chakra, right? If
Yes.
we start to think that way, it was remarkable for me
Yeah.
to discover that how Kelly, a woman could discover in herself that actually she tried to fit this perfect model. Because you know what, I have been this person for so many years, and my sisters would be telling me this, right? Oh, you're trying to be perfect all the time. But you know, I didn't realize this until I
Mm.
think few years ago. I think around probably my sister, that because I lost my sister, and
Mm.
that was very like a big moment when you suddenly present,
Mm.
right? That's why
Mhm.
mindfulness and the being connected with yourself in through breath, through this now, it's so important. Can you slightly explore that?
Yeah. The whole what? The whole
The
like.
whole perfection, how women can notice she's
Mhm.
in this perfect mode and trying
Mhm.
to what's happening in her, what
Yeah.
emotions may she going through, right?
It
What
could
are
be.
behaviors?
Yeah. It could be anything. And I like what you said about the flow state and the like the high peak performance. It's all like it's everything is at the same like because as women we go through all different things, right? And it's like, oh no, we should be more masculine and go go go, and no, we should be laid back and more feminine and allow things to come to us. And it's like, okay, you're in flow and in masculinity at the same time, right? So it's also, I think, working with the polarities. But you know, with the whole kind of perfect thing, it's like it's what you make meaning of it. Like, what are you giving meaning to, and what are you making it mean? So we just talked about like, you know, babies have perfectionism and imperfections. So I think it's just a conversation of like, where do you, like, how do you see perfection, like within yourself? Because, like, right now, right, I could be like, oh, my hair, I need to get more highlights, the color, right? Like, it's not perfect. Like, oh, like my roots are coming in, right? And someone would be like, oh my God, your color looks great. Like, so it's like, what meaning are we giving things? Like, and how are we also seeing ourselves and seeing other things? Like just being, and you brought mindfulness, like just being mindful of where your mind goes, you know, what it is seeking out, because it's usually like, you know, is it a self-judgment? Is it you're creating a story, right? You know, one of my coaches says, you know, feelings aren't facts, but feelings actually allow us, right, to kind of navigate like, okay, what is going on here? Like, am I feeling some sort of way about my hair today? You know? So it's how I think we perceive and like what we give meaning to around this whole like perfectionism conversation, because again, like what's perfect in my eyes, it could be different in yours. And I think what that does for women is like assess like where you are, what you're doing, what you want, and where are you putting. I think from my clients, what a lot of them do is they put a lot of pressure on themselves, you know, a lot of pressure on themselves, whether that was programmed, whether that, you know, it's, and I myself even, right, for years, and still, I still put pressure, and there's pressure is good. Like some pressure is good to put on, and I don't believe in good or bad, but like some pressure is needed.
We need some form of adrenaline, right? It is like reminding me what you, I think, wanted to say, just 1 hour before a game, right?
Yes.
I was sorry, guys, but I was on the toilet all the time, right? Because the adrenaline does the job, which produce obviously adrenaline, which affect your gut, right?
Yeah.
But that was a good pressure for a performance. Too much of it creates leaky gut, right? It is just too much adrenaline all the time, which then can affect later on my health. And this is what's happened, right? That's what I have learned from precision medicine, right? So that is good, because we need to be able to run away from a tiger, like in a book, right? So that is good. The problem is we are too much in this environment when we have to run out all the time, when we are not in this rest and repair system. And that's what you wanted probably.
Yeah, rest and repair, right? And then there's the whole, like in the trauma world, it's like the fight, flight, freeze, and fawn. Like if you're always in fight mode, it's like a chronic pressure, and that's also not good for your body either. And sometimes people don't even know they're like, I was in a chronic state of pressure and anxiety and like, and that was a normal for me. Like that was like, oh, because my pain body was, my level of tolerance and my pain body was so large. Like I could take X amount of pain. You know, oh yeah, depression, anxiety. Yeah, I've been like this for years. I don't know anything better, right? Like I don't know anything different. So it's getting to explore like, wow, you know, am I putting what's chronic in my life? And sometimes it's hard to see, because it's like, oh, I've been living like this for so long, or maybe I've been neglected and abused for years. I don't even know what fun or pleasure or happiness was. I mean, for me, I was always working. So when I really tapped into like having more pleasure, having more fun in my life, I was like, oh my, I like kind of pushed it away, because I can't do that. I gotta get work done. Like I have no time for play. And so play and pleasure is like definitely huge. You know, I know you're kind of in this spiritual world and all of that, because like the seasons and the flow, and I'm definitely into also working with the moon cycles. Like there's definitely an energy. And also there's something else where, you know, a lot of women know this, a lot of women don't, but when we are in an orgasmic state, that also helps manifestation. It's creation, right? Yes. So when you're in this orgasmic state, like it's easier to create, right, and manifest, because you're in that vibration, right? And creation is formed. So like having a baby, right? So it's how can we also play, you know, and have fun, because that is also one of my coaches asked me a really powerful question, and the question was, you know, how good can you stand it? And I was like, huh? Like I don't know. Like there's a limit. Like I guarantee everyone watching this, there's a limit to how good you can stand it. Like, how much pleasure and play and fun and joy can you have? Can you win the lottery? Can you, like, how much can you receive? And I think for women, that also is a big conversation, because we're always giving, we're always doing, we're always like, some of us are Mother Teresa. And it's like, wait a minute, like, and that's also the self-love piece. How can we love ourselves? Like, you know, maybe I do need time off. So it's like, how good and how well do you receive compliments? You know, people doing other things for you. So it's a big conversation too in my clients, because they're not like, they receive, but it's like, well, how much more can I receive? You know, so yeah, huge conversation for some women.
Yes, I agree with you about the receiving, because and we had just few brief conversation before we started. When something suddenly comes to you and you're like, oh, really? Can I take it? This is going to disappear. It is really for me, right? And that is the stuff that sometimes that success, and we talk to women in business or female entrepreneur, that success, you might be blocking because you might be afraid of success. It's not being afraid of failure, because I'm not afraid of failure. I failed many times. That has become like a normal, right?
Yeah.
And then you becoming afraid of your success, that you're good, that you're great, that you have potential, that you have power, and you're forgetting to recognize this inside you, and then you are just checking who you are not yet. And that's again comes to recognition of your accomplishments. And women, I think, have hard time to admit where they are good, what they've done well, what they have achieved, right? So it's a big topic. I agree with you. Kelly, tell me, what is an inner circle? Because I know that you run something
Oh yeah.
interesting, and I wanted that you share this with everyone, because I know that powerful connections between women who are mindful, who wants to work on themselves, because it's all about work on themselves, do bring benefits to those women who are joining those circles, and then they can manifest and transform life, business, relationship, anything they want in a more profound way. And that's what is about this interview. We want to push women to transform even more.
Yeah. So I have a couple of ways. So I have like a free community called Women Work and Worth, and that's just like a movement and a platform. Inner Circle is more of like a networking group, but it's also like, it's like a mastermind, a little bit different from like my higher end clients or my signature group program, which it's called Shatter Your Own Glass Ceilings. But yeah, the Inner Circle is really just like networking. We met through, right? 500 networking group.
Yes.
It's just so powerful, right? When you come together as women. So it's just like a networking community and just like really helping each other. And because there's different ways to work with me, and not everyone can be in my signature program. Not everyone could be working with me privately, right? All of that. So I'm really an advocate for, you know, female empowerment and coming together and all of that, because we can't do this alone, you know, like entrepreneurship, building visions and dreams, like other people get to be a part of that, because you just can't do it alone. So it's just, you know, something that I offer. And I'm just really big, because a lot of my successes, a lot of the things that I've done or achieved, or I've gotten help. I haven't done anything on my own, you know, so it's so important. I think people need other people in different ways, you know, and it's also about like serving and giving back and all of that. So it's just so, and that's why I believe in it so much. And you know, there's even going to be like a giving back component that comes out of my business that we're working on. So it's just, for me, like even men, like I'm definitely all about women empowerment, but there's been a lot of men that has been advocates for me, you know, so it's also like, and I would say this for people watching, like because this happens, right? When you are elevating, there's a line that says like elevation requires separation at some point, right? So you may be hanging out with maybe certain groups of people or friends that you've kind of grown out of, right? And I've seen this a lot as I up level and as I grow and expand. Like there's just some groups that I'm like, you know, it's just not a fit anymore, and that's okay. So that's why it's so critical to find those groups, find those accountability partners, find the people and the communities that are for you. You know, some people are just, you just grow out of people, you just grow out of situations and all of that, and that's okay. And it's like, if you don't have a coach, you don't have a mentor or anything like that, like, get into these groups, be surrounded by people that are motivating you, you know, follow Daria, follow this podcast, like whatever it is, like, get into people's worlds, because A, you can't do it alone, and B, like, be around people that you can learn and grow and be of service to too. Because it's not always like, oh, what can I get? I mean, you and I both know this. It's like, what can you also give? So yeah, just community has been such a powerful thing. Connections have been a powerful thing for me. So I'm just, yeah, really like into that kind of whole piece of like the entrepreneurial.
You touch a very, I feel, important topic of asking for help, because I found many high-performing women don't like to do that. I feel they want to sort things by themselves because they will feel shame most of the time, maybe not such a guilt, but shame, how I cannot do this. And I think there's another, I want to hear what you have to say about this. And second part of that question is, I feel women have to be more open and receptive for other women, for her support. And I found that sometimes that always is that juggles of two energies. I see from my little group when I'm trying to challenge, and there is always that poof, crash coming at some point, because it's like that rebellion child don't want to be told, right? And I think we have to be much, and I have the same, right? I think Anjanita once told me something and I was, oh no, you know what I mean? She does not know about this, right? And I was like, I'm going to, you know what I mean? And then I had to digest, and I love this because that challenge brought discovery, self-discovery, brought something new. But there is that moment of crash when the strong women drive with strong women and they see the potential in themselves. And I think we have, I want to teach women to embrace more and actually jumping on those women who are doing this because they're doing this for your potential and your benefit.
Yeah. So what we're talking about, all of this is related to vulnerability, right? And being able to receive and ask for help. And then also like taking the jealousy out of it and looking at other people that have what you want and being like, oh, A, it's possible. B, can she help me? Or what can I learn from her? Right? Because everyone's at a different journey, right? Like my chapter 5 is not someone else's chapter 12, right? So it's the vulnerability, right? How vulnerable. And for me, vulnerability was hard. It does bring, for me, it does bring up shame sometimes to like ask for help. Like, asking for help, like the meaning I used to give is like, I need something, or I'm not like good enough, or, it's like, I need help. Right. So it's like, asking for help sometimes is hard. Some people are like, no, I can ask for help all day long. Right. And it's vulnerable. Like everyone needs help. Right. Like everyone does. Like there is nothing. And there's also a lot of shame. Right. For some people. And I think with the jealousy part, and even when I coach people, or even when I'm getting coached, being of service and offending someone in the name of love, right? Some things, there's some hard things that you get to hear. There's blind spots. I did a post. I wrote something about like blind spots. Your blind spots are a blessing and a bitch. Because they are, right? It's like, like I don't want to be told or pointed out something that I know could help me, right? So in the moment, it might hurt or might sting or might, and it's for your own growth. I don't love all the time when my coaches are like, can I share something with you that I'm noticing? And I'm like, oh, I know it's coming. I'm like, okay, yeah. And I take the hit, but I also do that with my clients because I know it's in the best interest of them, for them. So I think this is a great conversation around like vulnerability. Like how can you just be vulnerable, like lean into it just a little bit more? Because it is like, growth is not comfortable,
Yes, and again we coming back, which is beautiful, to the beginning of our conversation, where we do work on ourselves. And I never shared. I am just started to share more about the journey, about my work. But one of the thing is we transforming, we having the emotional, I don't know, fitness, mental fitness, physical fitness, any type of fitness, right? Because we work on it. You the same working as on your muscles, on your heart muscles. You do exactly the same with emotions, with mental health, with mindset. This is not just coming like that. And tomorrow you wake up and you like put a wish under pillow. That's what I used to do when I was at high school. But I always would be study. And I always, then there were power of visualization works, because I would always receive questions I knew answer for, right? So there is a power on it. But thank you so much for stressing again that you have to put work on it. And we often want to skip that part.
Absolutely.
We just want to move straight to the results phase.
Yeah. No, the work is required. I mean, like as a performer, as like, you brush your teeth every day. I mean, is the work's required, and sometimes not. Like you could be safe and comfortable. I know people that are doing the same stuff in the same role, like within corporate, and there's no shame in that either. Like it's you get to decide, you get to design your life. But just know if you want a big life or you want to do certain things, like it comes with big growth, and it's, you get to kind of be challenged. Yes. So
Kelly, what are your 3 tips for an ambitious woman who kind of would like to start to show up, right? She has her dream. She holds this dream inside, right? And I know many females who are like, when you ask what are your heart desires, they first don't know what is this. So we have to work through that, right? It's a not superficial, I want, you know what I mean? But once they understand that they want this and this, they want to transform it, they want to open a business, they want whatever, right? How they could start to show up, avoid this perfectionist imposter syndrome, and like, just go show up, do what they're supposed to do, what is their calling. What are the steps, how they could start?
So I say 3 steps like that are top of mind right now, because there's so many. One, have your own back, right? This goes back to the inner child work. Like think about yourself 2 or 5 or younger child, and be like, what would you do for that little child? You do anything, you have its back at any cost, whatever you need to do. So have your own back always. Number 2, what we just talked about is like ask more for what you need. Like just ask. Usually, like if you really want to get big with it, you can ask for one thing a day, right? Ask for what you need. And number 3, I would say, I think it's more pleasure and play for ambitious women, because you get to turn up the volume on that, because if we think we're playing and we're experiencing pleasure, there's always more that we can. And, life is also supposed to be enjoyed and played and celebrated. So pleasure, play, and like the celebration, it's all kind of not the same thing, but it's feeling celebrating each moment.
Beautiful. I think I have to have some sip of water. Yeah. One moment, please. That is this imperfect moment that came.
Yeah,
that is right? Shutting down all my settings.
And it's perfect.
And it's perfect, but
and you're doing a lot of talking, so
yes, but I'm trying to listen as well. But it's I always want to have a conversation, and I think both sides of the spectrum and views. I don't want that we agree on everything, but usually we do agree on things because we're going through the transformation, and at some point this transformation is aligning for all of us. Kelly, please tell me how people can find you, how they can sign up to your courses. You work with women, women empowerment, but there, if it's any man who listen, yes, let us know. Enlighten us.
Yeah, so you can just go on my website, kellylynnadams.com, and then I'm on all like social media platforms under my name. And that's it. I would say people like get on my newsletter list. That's really where I share, the most of what's going on, whether I'm speaking or doing another program or whatever the heck is going on. What the heck is going on? I have a lot coming up for the second year in 2023. So yeah, so
beautiful.
exciting.
That was just a flavor of who you are, what do you do, how you transforming women and men life, how you transform your life. There is so many topics I could try to pull around and tear apart, but the essence of this was there, that I wanted that women open up. They have to do some work. They have to maybe dig into this child, then they have to nourish this child, but they have to be brave. And I think, if you agree with me, my last question is, I feel that often women don't want to take responsibility to dig that things, and then they living for too long with this partial awareness, with hope that things are going to change and improve, and they living in lack of self-care, lack of self-care, lack of self-love, lack of self-compassion, doing the chores every single day. And that's, even if you still will be doing this, or they will be doing this, still this can bring them more pleasure once they work on their own nourishment.
Yeah, absolutely. Just it's the conversation so important. You can find pleasure in anything, but you're right. It's like taking responsibility for where you're at. And sometimes the work is not easy, but it's always worth it. So it's just one step in front of the other, just baby steps. You don't have to, Rome wasn't built in a day, the whole saying. So just be gentle on yourself, see what resonates with you, tune in to your own intuition, and you'll be guided.
No, don't touch intuition, because that is another question we could talk about, right? But intuition is important. The thing is, intuition cannot manifest if you are constantly disconnected with yourself, right? So then you don't really feel what your body says, right? And then the embodiment comes. And there was a question about, maybe I ask you, that would be the really last, about embodiment leadership. What is that about? Because I think it's so important question. So again, flow comes and life aligning the question.
I do have to leave in a few minutes,
yes.
But so embodiment's huge. It's a practice, right? So getting out of our head and into our body, it's huge. In my practice, I go wherever I'm trauma informed, somatics. So somatics is more of the body, right? So it's like we store different things in our body. So it's so critical that we tune in with our body. It's not just logical, it's emotional and the beingness of it. So it's getting into the body, because the feelings are stored, in the body. There's a book called The Body Keeps Score. So I would recommend anyone to pick that up, because the body is it's always, everything is speaking, right? So if we think everything is speaking, where in your body is it speaking? So we hold a lot of trauma in our bodies. So when we get to release that, it's also healing. So yes, it's mindset work, but it's also embodiment work.
I love the ending, because we end with a holistic accent, that mind, body, spirit, heart, physical, mental, emotional are all connected, and we must not tear things apart, but we must bring us into one being. Thank you, Kelly. Thank you so much. Pleasure to speak with you. Thank you, everyone. And until we have another amazing guest, take care. Bye-bye.